Hello and welcome to the Twisted Cast, episode 3. Today we are going to be going over our individual thoughts of what we would like to see in a brand new Twisted Metal game. And now before anybody starts freaking out and going in the comments, no, sadly there's not been a proven source saying that there's a new game in the works, but it has been heavily rumored. And that's why, it gives us kind of the chance to go over our theories of what could be potentially in a new game and what we would also just really like to see as fans. So, I guess we'll start out with me, and then we'll kind of move on to the rest of us, or just kind of bank off our ideas. I guess the number one thing I would like to see in a new Twisted Metal would be that they both include a single player experience and a multiplayer experience, an online multiplayer, I should say. Because when 2012 was being made, the PS3 version of Twisted Metal, they originally were going to only make it a multiplayer exclusive to PS3, and it was going to be a $30 double A game, and then at the last minute, or that's what David Jaffe likes to say. I don't know the exact time frame of how long they had to make it, but apparently towards the end of the dev cycle, Sony came back and said, we're going to double your budget. It's a triple A game now, and we want it to be a full release for $60, and we want a single player experience. So they had to go back to the drawing board and add it, and in the end, the whole single player just felt really half-assed. They had a lot of ambition, a lot of cool ideas, but it ended up just not being nearly as good as just the traditional tournament system that we've come to know and love, where you could go through the game with each character and see their ending movies and have a laugh and all that good stuff. They ended up cutting it down to only 3 ending movies, or with 3 separate characters, and it just wasn't nearly as enticing or as it didn't have as much replayability, I should say. So that's honestly my main thing. I hope is that comes in a new game, is that if we get a single player experience, I want it just to be the tried and true tournament. I want to see it back to its glory days of being able to go through the game with every character and enjoy it all the way through, to have all that replayability with every single character, not just like 2 or 3 of them. And then of course, a multiplayer is it's a given these days. You need a multiplayer to keep a game alive, and hopefully this time it will be on a system that it's not at the end of the system's life, and it will continue to get updates for years to come, and it could potentially be a brand new, really hit online game, kind of like, we see with Battlefield and Call of Duty and stuff like that. I would love to see car combat come back to the mainstream and be a household name again. So that's kind of where I would start off. Like, what do you guys think? Would you like to see it come back to its glory days of the classic tournament with single player and a multiplayer experience, or would you like it to be something completely different?
For a AAA game, I want it to release done and finished.
Yeah,
for sure. What were you gonna say, Drew?
I just wanted to start just by kind of, saying what the rumors are about the new game, so maybe we have an idea of what it could possibly be.
Yeah.
Down the road. So back in 2021, there was a cryptic tweet from a journalist, Tom Henderson. I think it works for DualShockers.
Mm-hmm.
But he put a tweet out saying 2023, followed by a picture of Sweet Tooth from 2012. So people took that to mean it was part of the TV show, but I think he later clarified that it was actually a rumor for the game. And then a few weeks later, maybe it was a few months later, they talked about Lucid Studios, who made Destruction All-Stars, being the team behind who's going to make the new Twisted Metal. And then the rumors continued until they said the project was moved from Lucid Games to Firesprite Studios, where that's kind of where the rumor rests right now. David Jaffe confirms, whatever that's worth these days, that Project Red Star from Firesprite is the new Twisted Metal game. And part of what people think of what Firesprite's going to do with the series is it's going to be a free-to-play, online-only multiplayer game that's based off of what they have on their website for a job listing for a multiplayer action game, where they say it's going to be a cutting-edge AAA game in a vibrant and unique universe with both on-foot and vehicular combat.
Oh, God.
So they say this bold project aims to break new ground in multiplayer, blending gameplay mechanics in new ways and deeply embedding storytelling elements into a unique universe. We're building an elite, diverse first-party team, and this is your opportunity, blah, blah, blah. So it seems like it's going to be very multiplayer-focused. So I'm not sure if we want this conversation to be geared towards what the game most likely will be, or if it's going to be a hypothetical, if the game could be anything we want, this is how we want it. How do we want this conversation to go?
I'd say a little bit of both. I think we could start it out with more of what the game looks like it's going to be, and then we can kind of shift into what more we want. Like, obviously, I already talked about what I want, essentially. There is a couple more points I want to add, but we can get to that later. And then, yeah, we can definitely just kind of start out with, based on what you're saying, and I'm assuming you're reading an article right now.
No, I'm on the actual Firesprite website.
Oh,
reading it.
Wait. So on their website, which is the developer?
Right, Firesprite Studios, yeah.
So
Yeah,
they have stated
listings.
officially that they're working on a Twisted Metal game?
No. They haven't said officially that it's Twisted Metal. However, that's what the rumor has been. So from outside third-party journalists would come and say, hey, it's being worked on by Firesprite. David Jaffe himself says, the rumored Project Red Star by Firesprite is Twisted Metal. There's a link on one of Jaffe's videos that says, hey, I'm telling you for sure this is Twisted Metal. So nothing official, but that's about as close as we can get until there's an actual announcement.
Okay. I guess the only thing that stuck out to me was fucking on-foot combat. Fuck that. I hope that does not happen.
I'd rather not do that.
We were toying with, like, I think I've told you guys in the past, like, right after Twisted Metal Black Online, we were playing with the concept of Twisted Metal World, where it was a battle royale before battle royales were even made, where you would drive around in huge teams in various cars. Even multiple people could be in the same car. Mm-hmm. But if your car got damaged enough, you could bail from that car and run to specific car spawn points and gain a new car at that point. So we were toying around with having the on-foot section, but not combat-wise. It was always going to, and no platforming whatsoever. It was just simply to get a new car with risk versus reward of being run down while you're trying to run to a new car.
And that's what they did with the All-Stars game, right? Or not all, what was it called?
Yeah, Destruction All-Stars, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they did with that. That was literally like the exact concept.
Was it? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that concept's been kicked around for a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah, with we wanted to have like 32 players and then 64 player versus.
Oh my God.
Was the concept, which was just insane. It was beyond anything we could have done.
Right.
And that project got canceled a long time ago, but it always keeps resurfacing, and it sounds like they're kind of pushing in that direction again a little bit.
It's kind of the natural evolution of Twisted Metal. Like the casual people would want something more than just cars bumping into each other. They want a bit of an expanded multiplayer environment. Definitely.
Anyone I've ever talked to that's not into Twisted Metal, they just play it and don't understand like what the point of it is.
Yeah.
Like, and it's always been the same exact reaction every single time. Like I've put like even people below like Twisted Metal Black or 2 or whatever. It's always the same reaction. I'm just like, I'm shooting things, but like I don't get like what I'm supposed to be doing. Like there's not enough given to the player to understand like this has depth. It's like you look at it and it's like, okay, I'm just shooting things. I'm driving around a level and I'm shooting bots, and then the level ends and then I do it again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. David Jaffe, for whatever his opinions are worth, kind of equated it to what Kong said, how people feel that way about Twisted Metal. It's the same way of like picking up Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat and just like moving forward, like doing a couple punches and kicks and being like, okay, that's cool, but like there's nothing really to it. Where really the
those
value,
games give you more
depth. Yeah, they do, but it's still like it's something on the surface that seems like, okay, it's just a skeleton monster punching an ice demon or whatever. Like this isn't anything. Where the actual value of the gameplay comes from, like you said, there's more to it, like from the depth. And I think Twisted Metal is kind of in that same boat, where the surface doesn't really explain the game.
It gives more to the player. Like if they like the list is a good example of that. Like it shows the player of like what they can do, and it shows them the button inputs they can press, and like they're like, oh, I can string this combo together. I can do this. Like Twisted Metal doesn't give them anything. It's like you just shoot missiles. They don't understand at a face value of like there's nothing just blatant there. Like look, idiot. Like this is how you do it.
Right.
Yeah. That's
unfortunately that's how it needs to be. Like that's just how
no hand holding basically.
Yeah, like Twisted Metal does an awful job of communicating what it is to players for sure.
And like and I get that to a degree. Like I've talked about this before. I definitely think in a new Twisted Metal in a new age, to get new players to like the game, not just the old fans like us, but new players, so the games can continue to grow and expand, and the community gets bigger. they need to include more hand-holding techniques. Like, not straight up making the game easy, but I'm saying, like, a tutorial would be fine. I think, like, just, and not even having it where it's forced at the beginning, but just have an option for a tutorial. Like, they've never done that. They've never had any reason to give that to people because, you know, because car combat was so big back in the day that it took off, and they never really sensed a reason to give somebody a leeway or a hand-holding experience because everyone knew what to do. But now if you got somebody who's never played Twisted Metal and you hand them TM2 or Twisted Metal Black, they're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I
still say that.
Yeah, literally, I've watched videos of people uploading it to this day, like first time playing Twisted Metal Black, and they actually have a bad time because they're so used to nowadays so many games holding their hand at the beginning, like kind of easing them into it, not just getting thrown into the sharks. Mm-hmm. And, you know, to a degree, I like that idea of getting thrown into the sharks because I went through that with this game. But you got to look at it from the sense of you want to include everybody. You want everybody to have a good experience. And I think if they just included some type of narrative that kept the game cohesive and also kept the player interested to the point of wanting to get to the ending cutscene to figure out what the wish is, on top of getting some type of tutorial at the beginning, like what are they supposed to do to make it from A to B. I think that would really help in the sales of the game and keep it alive for a lot more people.
Yeah, for sure. I even think something simple like just separating cars into classes so they understand.
Kind of like if it's a small, Overwatch or something?
Small, medium, light car. And they have their own intricacies within their own subclass. Like, I think it would just be more easy for people to understand.
Yeah,
even though, like, of course, you can see it on face value, like, oh, big car will smash into a little car and kill a little car.
Yeah,
but it's just a way to help people understand, like, what the car is meant to do. Because sometimes, like, you can look at two cars that, like, or try to make them unique in some way instead of they're special just being the only thing that deviates them from each other would be another thing.
Sure.
Or, like, sometimes you can have cars that are similar to each other and, like, stat wise, but the only thing that differentiates them from each other is their special.
Yeah, as long as they just don't do 2012 again, where they have like
clones,
3 of the same car, and they just have different names and different paint jobs, and they're like, no, these are different cars, even though they're the same special and everything. It's like, as long as they don't do that, I think I'll be happy. Because I've talked about this in previous videos where I personally am on the train of, like, I think the special weapon really is like 90% of the creativity of a vehicle. Like, if the special weapon sucks ass, or like if it doesn't do anything that's unique to me, I'm not going to play that character. I just don't find them as fun to play. But if they have a really unique special weapon or a fun special weapon that has multiple skill gaps, like where you can learn different things or different ways to use it, that's a character I'm probably going to come back to more often than not.
I would like to see them do like what Overwatch does with their characters, where everyone has a different level of health, different types of health, like armor versus shield versus like standard, fleshy body health. Mm-hmm. And then their special weapons and abilities everyone's different. Yeah, there are some that have like your standard, assault rifle, automatic weapon thing, but others that are like, you're not choosing a character, you're choosing a play style.
Sure.
The way you use like Zenyatta with the orbs is much different than how you use McCree or whatever they're called now.
So there'd be like support characters and tanks and
right. So every character feels like a completely different experience, where having a main really says a lot about who you are as a player versus like, I just like the way this one looks. Roadkill looks fun.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I've had people ask me that, like, who do you main in Twisted Metal? And I'm just like, I don't know.
Just play Twisted Metal, bro.
They're all good. They're all fine, I guess.
I just play a car that looks okay.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing really that like differentiates them from each other unless you like seriously look at the numbers, and it's like most people aren't going to do that.
Right.
Most people aren't going to sit there and look at like, oh, this car can turn slightly faster if you press this button. It's like it's not going to, like, no one cares, man.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be like more apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Rich, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
So from your perspective, like, you have, more experience in game development and like having that mentality of like what the player wants than all of us combined. You have that experience. What do you think about like hand holding in games, making games accessible? Like, where's that balance for you?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, Twisted Metal was born during the PS era where games are pretty tough.
Yeah.
Like, I can go back and play some of my old games and they kick the crap out of me. And a lot of that syndrome comes from game designers playing their game over and over again and then retuning it to match their current skill level that week. So as they get better and better throughout the course of development, the game feels challenging to them, and it just kicks everybody else's ass once it's released into the public, because all the newbies are playing a game that is just brutal, that they don't have the knowledge of how to play it or how to deal with the enemies that was built up over the year of that game designer creating that game. And I think that's one of the reasons why Black was so difficult.
Yeah.
That, Jaffe and Scott and a lot of people at Sony were just playing that thing nonstop and getting so good at it and saying, this is too easy, make it harder. This is too easy, make it harder. And again, when it was released to the public, everybody's just like, holy crap, this thing is so damn hard. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, if you want to hit and kind of to that point, if you want to hit a broader audience, you kind of have to have different levels of skill, or start the players off at a very low skill level and then build them up until they reach a higher skill level.
Yeah.
So if you want a really accessible game, there's a trick that I learned from Insomniac that a lot of people don't know, and I think it's a brilliant one, is you have players play the game against AI enemies via a tutorial or a real game, and they would dynamically difficult tune the AI. So if you kept dying to the AI, the game got better invisibly.
Yep.
And what that meant is health didn't change, weapon damage didn't change, but the AI wouldn't attack as frequently. Maybe they go looking for power-ups more. They would seek cover or do things that are non-combative, allowing the player to beat them. And if you kept losing to them, they would get a little bit easier via that dynamic, but in no way that you could put your finger out and say, hey, wait a minute, my missiles are doing twice the amount of damage. Or,
right,
hey, the game is making things easier for me, because people don't want a game to get easier. They want to feel like they're getting better. So you wanted to do it invisibly.
Right.
So like Mortal Kombat AI, basically. Like when you keep they read your inputs and cheat, and then like over time, like eventually they'll become stupid again, and then you can just win. After they
become stupid, and then as you get better and you start beating them, they start to ratchet back up to normal difficulty.
Yeah.
So it eases us down to the point you don't get frustrated and want to throw the game away, and then kind of handholds you into leading you back up to a skill level that is on par with the game. And if you're really good, then it'll actually increase difficulty, because you want to keep players in that kind of flow of what their current skill level is. If it's too hard, they're going to get frustrated. If it's too easy, they're going to get bored.
Yeah.
So I think doing something like that in a Twisted Metal game would be a great way of handling, new players, easing them into it, but also challenging expert players, because the AI would just match their skill level.
For sure.
Skill-based matchmaking, basically.
Pretty much.
With the AI.
Oh, no. Let's not get on that.
That's a bit harder with players. Like, you're always going to get players that, like, matchmaking never truly worked in like Twisted Metal Black Online or a lot of games I worked at.
Yeah.
Because there's not always people online with the same skill level as you are. So if really good players are playing in the morning and unskilled players are playing at night, sometimes, you had to pull from one pool to the other just to fill out rosters, and you would eventually get a pro in there who's just going to spank everybody and then frustrate, the player experience.
Right. That's how it was with Call of Duty back in the day too, before they added skill-based matchmaking.
Would you want a new Twisted Metal game to have matchmaking like that, like based on player skill, or just I don't think
the player base is large enough for that. Like
that's
I
the
think
trick.
Most people who would be playing it are not really acquainted with car combat, so it's like there wouldn't really be too many people that are like stomping other people in the game.
Right. Yeah. Arson hops on.
I mean, or would there be? Because I mean, all the old people would want to join in and play, whatever the new Twisted Metal is, and their skill level is going to be better than a casual coming in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's going to be. I mean, they could have had a long break or something.
Right.
Could have, but I mean, it comes back pretty fast. Like any game, I mean, I'm sure you guys have noticed, any game you've played enough of that you come back to, you pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I haven't heard from Winners in a while. What are your thoughts on it?
On on the on a future Twisted Metal game.
Well, just like on
I
like
think
hand holding, like within Twisted Metal. Like, do you think it needs to be more like, hey, here's a quick tutorial on new players, like how to do this and that and this is how you defeat the enemy, or do you think it should be more kind of what Dave was saying, where it throws you into the fray like it's always done, but have intelligent AI that would shift depending on your play style or how good you are. So if you're a veteran, it'll actually get a little bit more difficult as time goes on to really challenge you. And then if it starts kicking your ass, it gets a little bit easier to like not make you frustrated.
I would say almost a mixture of both, and I say that because I feel like for I guess how much in the back burner this whole series has been, it definitely needs to ensure that it's accessible for anybody who's picking it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that with Twisted Metal 2012 it was a good game, but the online, and even the story was kind of lackluster. And so if they were to release a new game, like do a quick tutorial, like, hey, this is how you drive around, this is how you stop, this is how you shoot your guns, your missiles, and learning how like the different weapons function within the sandbox. And then it doesn't have to be too long, but just long enough to kind of, okay, this is how you play, and then let's just throw you into a scenario where you need to defeat these enemies, kind of like a trial run almost.
Right.
So it's definitely a combination of the two.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a smart way to go, because obviously, even if you run them through a tutorial, the first enemy they fight, you don't want it to spank them. You want them to beat it fairly easily, and gain a little bit of confidence and see that kind of payoff before you start giving them more challenges and peppering that in.
Right.
And I think that's where single player would really shine. Going from a tutorial into single player bot AI, and then maybe they have a leveling system that says, okay, you achieved level 15. We're now unlocking multiplayer. Go play against other players or something like that to kind of ease them into the water a little bit.
Yeah, they used to do that with Kong.
Which
Call of Duty was that?
World at War had one. They had boot camp, and you had to get to level 10.
Yep.
And then and they wouldn't let people that were level 55. I think no, it wasn't 55. I think it was 70. I think they wouldn't let the people max level prestige 1 higher join. It was only people that were in the first prestige area, like before they even do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it would let those players. Play, and then they had a separate one for level 10 and under.
Yeah, it's smart.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it. Honestly.
Would,
I think Halo 3 did the exact same thing, where they actually called it boot camp, and until you win, I think, at least 10 games, and have 10 XP, then it's like, okay, then you can go ahead and go into the real matchmaking, which was pretty cool back in the day. I remember being like, because you gotta remember, like a bunch of let's be realistic, the demographic that these kind of video games would attract would definitely be teenagers. I mean, that's kind of all how we all play the game at the first go around, and so it's like it has to be accessible enough for them to be like, oh, this is okay, this is pretty easy, this is pretty cool, and then just and after a certain point, just let them go wild with it.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Like, I hadn't played either one of them. I just pulled that out of my butt. How was that received? Like, was that a good, like?
Well, I
was
love
this well received, or did people hate it?
Honestly, I don't think anyone even used it, because most people most of the time casuals don't look for the menus. They'll just go right into like the first thing, which is usually team deathmatch. They'll just go into the most simple, straightforward thing, and they'll just ignore it.
Yeah,
so I don't think boot camp was even played.
With Black Ops, when it happened, like the combat training mode, I played it one time because it's against bots. It's not even like you'll have a team of humans against bots, and you can. No one else under like level 10 or 15 couldn't join, but you play it once, you get bored because it's bots. Like, you're there for PvP. It just gets boring, I think.
The boot camp was PvP. It wasn't bots, and World at War.
Yeah,
you played against humans. They just had to be under level 10.
Right.
That's all.
I think I'm thinking of Black Ops. So
they did have combat training in all the Black Ops games.
Yeah,
Black Ops 1 had it, but
my thing though is like with Twisted Metal, what they should do. I think this would work the best, especially if the multiplayer becomes really popular. Is that if they were to set up like Dave was saying, where you start the game and you really can't even play multiplayer until you go to single player and get to a certain amount of experience, and then it unlocks the multiplayer so you can go against people who have actually played the game a little bit, especially veterans like us. Because otherwise you jump right into multiplayer and you get just destroyed and wrecked, not know what to do, and that can be frustrating. Another thing too, I think that would cut down on a lot of Smurf accounts. And if, like Dave, if you don't know what that means, essentially is in new age games like Valorant or Call of Duty, if a player is really, really good at the game, or they've been playing for a long time, they're top level, whatever, they get bored and they will actually create a brand new account and rebuy the game. Or if it's a free game, they'll just, use it, make a new account and use the free version, and they will play against new players to destroy them and have a good time. And that's what's called smurfing. And and I feel like with Twisted Metal, if they were to do that, add this boot camp, so to speak, where you had to go through the single player and do that for a certain amount of time before you can play multiplayer, I think that would really cut down on a lot of Smurfs. At least I wouldn't want to do that, to go through all that again just to play multiplayer again. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah. People go through, they'll go through any measure to do that, though. Like, some people they will just dedicate their time to make sure they can Smurf. But because back when I used to do something similar, it was just it didn't take much time.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot of games have hoops you have to jump through, and it's just too much to even bother with.
Yeah, like to make new accounts, you have to have like a cell phone connected and shit. And
yeah, I'm familiar with Smurf accounts. It's been an issue for a while in games. In fact, I think I invented Smurf accounts.
Oh no.
No, I'm kidding.
Why would you do Goodrich? Yeah, some story about it. Back in the military days, I was working at the Pentagon.
God dang it! I can't beat these teenagers. I'm going to reset my account and come in fresh.
I have become
beat up on some noobs.
Yeah, I guess
I like the idea of treating a single player campaign as like a tutorial itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and you can do a lot of interesting things. Like this is like tutorial 101 is where tutorials are teaching, but also a test. Like you teach all these things that the player needs to do to succeed. And then once they hit a certain point, they must then perform all these things to actually get into the main game. So, and to kind of use a reference of like Ratchet and Clank, like we would throw them in an arena. There would be we'd say, hey, jump with the X button, and then we'd have a log in front of you. And the only way to get past the log was to jump it. So we taught it, you demonstrate, teach, demonstrate. So like a Twisted Metal could be like, hey, you're locked in a garage. You select the power missile, then fire to blow open the garage door, and then you drive out. And then once you're out there, you start saying, peppering things like, okay, turn to the left and then cycle over to your Rico bombs and then fire to do this thing, and then kind of do a quick demonstration of everything they can do and then give them a target.
Yeah.
That would be nice to help. And it's like, even speaking of just like, because we've talked a lot about that. I mean, talking more into level design and stuff. I would love to see more destructibility for sure.
Right.
Everything being able to be destroyed. Like that would be just thinking of the garage door and like a tutorial, just like being able to just at the end of a whole, like, I don't know, battle level, whatever, like mostly everything in the level is gone.
Is there a Twisted Metal game that you say has good destruction right now?
2012.
2012 probably has the most, because I mean, obviously the hardware could handle that.
Yeah,
because like you could destroy mostly all the little houses and stuff, but it wasn't like crazy. I mean, and now with the technology tools and stuff like you could do some crazy stuff, like really cool stuff to happen, even maybe scripted stuff to happen like during matches.
I think that would be smart because it would keep the matches dynamic, and it might even like kind of give you an internal timer of how long you've been in the match, kind of thing. Like if it's at this time when this plane's gonna collide with another plane in the air, and it's gonna create like, I don't know, they're gonna land on this section of the map that opens up a whole new area, kind of thing.
Yes. Because I remember there was I don't remember the name of the map. It was in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, but like halfway through, one section of the level would fill up with this gas, and then the doors would open, and then you'd have to go to another part of the map, and then the doors would close again. So it would be like about halfway through. And if they did something similar to that with Twisted Metal, like I don't know, like something blows up, destroys a section of the level, or floods the level or something, just changes it up a little bit, would be really cool to make more like dynamic scenes
kind
happening
of like what V8
in a more destructible world.
Yeah, I was about to say, kind of like we did on PS1 with Vigilante 8-second events.
Right. Yeah.
What did Battlefield 4 call it?
They just called it Destruction 2.0.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah.
Or there's some stupid marketing term for it, but it was just destructibility.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great example because I think it kind of made your mental calculus of how to approach a situation a lot more, like Nick said, dynamic. Like if you have like a team like holed up in a house somewhere, the Call of Duty strat, because you can't destroy the house, would just be to find a way to find them in the window or go inside the house.
Right.
But in Battlefield, you can say, okay, I'm going to grab a tank and I'm going to ram it into the bottom floor and collapse the building.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to shoot the wall where I know they're hiding behind. Like it changes up the entire way you want to approach. And I think Twisted Metal is right for those sort of like emergent gameplay mechanics. Like every match has a new story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like changing the environment and destructibility. And I think it really would help with a new Twisted Metal. To be quite honest, like a lot of the levels are really big, and as you kill off enemies, it feels very empty. The more enemies you kill,
it does.
So you could do, a battle royale kind of solution where the environment's crumbling from the edges with every car you kill, and you kind of bringing in the arena closer and closer and keeping the action tight the whole way through, despite the amount of cars that are left.
Yeah.
Antarctica was the only one that really do an idea. Like it wasn't tied to cars being destroyed, but it was like a level that shrank as you play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like people really, that stands out to people, that level from that game.
That's why it's my favorite in TM2.
Yeah, it was a really exciting. Unique thing. So it was really unique because I know it appears random, but I know like I'm sure if you really went to the numbers, it's probably not random. It's probably something that or which ones fall. There's probably a set ones that happen, and it's determined when a level loads, is what I'm guessing. But
yeah,
it feels random enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels random, so no one would notice unless they like seriously look.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Cody might know.
It's nice.
Yeah,
I mean probably. I'm sure there's
14.5 seconds.
He's figured the patterns.
Like usually in games, like you think something's random, but like it's usually like a game timer of like if you've been in a game for this long, when the level loads, like this pattern will happen. So no players will really know that anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You could do some neat thematic things with it too. If you wanted to put like a dead man switch kind of effect on the cars, when if you kill, Shadow or this particular player, it will destroy this section of the map completely. So you could even strategically take out parts of the map and control the configuration of like who you kill in the match itself.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Like kind of, just like kind of how even back in TM2 you could destroy the Paris Eiffel Tower and unlock that whole section on top of the levels. I mean, they could bring that back with certain abilities in certain areas and levels like that are kind of secrets in a way, where they wouldn't happen automatically, but you'd have to figure out like, oh, if I destroy a character in this specific spot, or if I find a remote bomb and place it in a specific spot, boom, it opens up this hole, and now you can get to this whole tunnel and like underground, and or like in Twisted Metal Black when you shoot down the plane in the first level, it unlocks that whole underground area that you unlock Yellow Jacket in. It's just like it's stuff that you wouldn't figure out right away, but over time you could accidentally shoot a missile and it would fly up and hit the plane. You're like, oh, what the hell? Like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, that kind of gameplay really catches the eye of a lot of players. Like, it's fun to be able to put a remote bomb somewhere and then collapse part of the level, and it's even more fun if you can actually get an enemy in that section and collapse them with it.
Right.
And just have it be like an insta-kill off the rooftops.
Yeah.
That's the original Levolution right there.
Levolution, that's what it's called.
Levolution.
Thank you. Yes.
Levolution.
Yeah, that's
even more dumb than the Destruction 2.0 bullshit you just spoke.
Yeah. They used that in Battlefield. It was Levolution. That was what they called it.
Yeah, just a dumb marketing term, yeah.
It's
it was groundbreaking. It was innovative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, especially Bad Company too. It just felt nice to like if there was people camping in like certain like areas or certain sections of the map, at least if you had enough explosives or you had like good like tank armor like with you, you can just blow up that whole damn section and just get the rats out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So shit like that.
Specifically with Battlefield, like just like losing my fucking mind because there was a bridge on one of the maps. I couldn't tell you which game or which map, but there would be a bridge. I'd put C4 underneath it, and then as a tank would drive over it, I would blow up the bridge, and it would like the collapse tank into the river. Or whatever. Like just feeling like I this is a sandbox. I'm given all these tools, And it's up to me to, kind of like, I guess, with Dark Souls in a way, where it's like the game just dispenses a bunch of tools and ways to approach situations, but it's up to you to kind of put it all together.
Yeah.
So it empowers the player, I feel like.
And it meets players' expectations. Like, if you have powerful explosions and you've seen them blow up bridges in the past, and you can do it in game, it's satisfying, and it creates immersion for that player. What really kind of pulls a player out is like, okay, I have the most powerful explosion in the game, and I blow up a building, and nothing happens to that building. Yep. And it's like, this is dumb.
It's like a black texture for like 30 seconds, and it disappears.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why even stuff like the crane in Twisted Metal 4 was cool. Like being able to pick the cars up, it doesn't have to be destruction. Like just the fact you control a crane and then
it's an
just
interactive
drop cars
element
into a plate and kill them. Yeah, it's like it was really cool.
Yeah,
it's that very satisfying moment of saying, I wonder if I hit that button if it'll do that, and then you do it and it does, and you're like, holy shit, it actually did the thing I thought it was going to do.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as long as in a Dune Twisted Metal, as long as they have elements like that in the levels, I'll be fine with it. I've always come back to like, should the levels be big? Should they be small? Should they be medium? Because, like Dave was saying, in 2012, I feel like the levels were amazing. They were great in terms of their design, and they were ginormous, which is great at first when you're going against like 15 enemies. But then as soon as you start killing them off and you're down to like 3 enemies, 5 enemies, whatever, it really feels empty. Like there's a lot of leeway in a lot of areas where you'll get away from the AI and they can't find you, and it's just very like ghost town-ish.
And as we saw Nick, we did Excellent Kai. Sorry, Kong.
Oh, I just said I noticed that a lot when I was playing Black last night.
Yeah,
like, it's just the levels are too big.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Black suburbs are just they're
a lot
obnoxious.
of the levels are just really big, and if you you feel like you need to play with 8 enemies on every single level, otherwise it's like you're limited to playing like 2 stages in the game.
Right.
Yeah. Here's one of the changes for your playthrough is I actually went in and sectioned off the bigger levels into much smaller arenas using cement dividers. So when you play Black Online, you'll see that I realized these levels are too big for what we were doing and just brought them way in. Of course,
the better version of Black.
For real.
Better version of Black. And friendly too.
And
I know when Nick and I played Excellent Kai, sorry. When you and I played Excellent Kai the other day just to test it out, we saw that it allows for up to 16 players total, or 14 if you have like a health truck and the nuke launcher or whatever.
Right.
And so with like that kind of game mode with that many people that they can respawn, I can see those maps like feeling almost claustrophobic. Like Sun Springs, California for 2012 with 16 people that respawn constantly, like a team deathmatch sort of thing, would feel like a hurricane. It would be insane.
It would be really chaotic fun though.
Right, it would be amazing. I would love it. So they kind of need to be big for that situation. But if it is like campaign mode where you kill an enemy and they just vanish into the ether, like they're just gone forever,
they should be
it starts to feel like a wasteland after a while.
Yeah, for sure. And like, it's. I think that's why it should always be a mixture. It should be some are big, some are medium, some are small. I don't think they should all be large. I don't think they should all be small, because it could go both ways. If they're all small, then it could just be too claustrophobic and like not enough to do, not enough to see. It gets boring really fast. And then whereas if they're all ginormous, like we already talked about, it's cool at first, but then it becomes a ghost town when you start killing people.
Yeah, and it would be nice if we had an option in there in games like that, if it gave a recommendation of what level to use based on how many players were in there.
Yeah.
Well, didn't 2012 have variations of the maps, kind of like Goodrich talked about with like he sectioned off part of the maps? Like 2012 had that built in.
Yep.
They totally ripped it off from me.
They probably did, honestly.
It's a great idea. Like you make a giant map and then you just have sections of it that can be played on their own.
I mean, even in the single player, they do that with one of them. It was Grindhouse.
It's Grindhouse, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, even Blackrock Stadium, I think they showed off both versions of it during the campaign.
Right. Yeah.
But that can also cause other issues of over redundancy with scenery. Because like when I played that game, I noticed like every level kind of felt the same.
Right. Yeah, they got a lot of mileage.
I later figured on. I was like, oh yeah, like it's just smaller sectioned off levels.
Yep.
So it's like that's the only problem with it, is it did become overly redundant to look at least.
Yeah, and Diesel City and what's the other one? Watkins Harbor. They look the same to me. Like I can never tell the difference.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I mean, part of good level design is having distinct visuals, especially like a major landmark you can see no matter where you are on the level, so you can orient yourself.
Yeah.
And I noticed in a lot of these levels, like Black and all that, there's very few of those elements in there where you're just like, okay, the tower's to my left, I know exactly where I am, and I know that there's health ahead or things like that. Yeah. And just also keeping the same color palette doesn't help very much either in that type of instance.
Yep. Yeah, there's no plumber's ass to look at.
Yeah, right.
How am I supposed to know like where I am if I can't see the plumber's ass? Like,
need that ass.
If you show our land for Small Brawl, I would like recognize it instantly, and that's the game I have the least experience with. But like, they're so iconic and memorable, those maps. And I love Twisted Metal Black. But if you show me a screenshot of Twisted Metal Black, it would take me probably 5-10 seconds before I tell you what map it is.
Unless it's
Snowy Roads, right?
That's
so
true.
I think you're right, Goodrich. Like you need that diversity, and not only like the layout, but the artistic choices.
Yeah, the artistic choices definitely help you navigate the environment itself. I mean, and then also you need like the level to flow. You don't want dead ends or overly sharp turns for a game like this because you're moving at such fast speeds.
Right.
So like thinking about like Prison Boat or Prison Barge, I forget the name of it, but it's basically Prison Passage.
One of the worst levels in the series.
Yeah, I hate that.
Bombs.
You know, it's two flat levels on top of each other with a hairpin turn going up and then a hairpin, turn off the top of that ramp.
Yep.
And it just doesn't flow well.
No.
It does not flow well as a game. And plus you need to be able to see the enemies most of the time. And if you're on one level, you don't see the enemies on the lower level or vice versa. So it creates kind of a separation that makes it feel like you're not engaged.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I agree to that. And like when it comes to not only just level design, but just the game in general of Twisted Metal, car combat. Obviously, car combat's really taken like a huge dive in terms of popularity over the years. Right now I'm trying to think, like, has there been a popular car combat game in the past 10 years?
Not one that succeeded.
2012
Destruction All-Stars was like the last
popular.
But that wasn't popular though. I mean, it was a launch setup for PS5, and I think it failed. It like kind of died immediately, if I remember right.
I mean, I would argue there hasn't been a successful car combat game since Twisted Metal Black.
No.
Yeah,
and even that was like not even the height of the series.
Yep. It was even it was on a decline at that point as well.
Like Twisted Metal 2 was the height. That was the peak of not only Twisted Metal, but probably car combat.
Yeah, TM3 was actually the peak.
TM3 sold the most.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. TM3 supremacy peak.
Yep. Elitism.
Elitism, I can feel it.
From all the puzzle solving that I've tried to do, I've been able to figure out, I think, that Twisted Metal 3 sold the most.
That's crazy. What, 1998 then was the peak of car combat?
Yeah,
which was Vigilante 8, that was Rogue Drip.
It went crazy. And then after 4, sold less, and then Black sold more, and then it just, Small Brawl was released on the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Wasn't marketed well. No one cared about Head On. 2012 was, I guess, like kind of like people looked at it and thought it was cool, forgot about it in like a month.
Well, Head On had a lot of marketing. Like they spent a lot of money on marketing for Head On. Or sorry, not Head On.
Did they?
2012. Because I remember.
Oh yeah, I mean the shoot the truck thing.
Yeah, like they had so many commercials. They had the whole E3 thing. I remember 2012. Everybody was talking about 2012. Like even my friends at school that never played Twisted Metal before were like, "Dude, you see that clown game with the cars?" And I'm like, "Yes." I've been waiting for it for 10 years, but yes. And then when it came out, I think most of my friends got it except for the ones that didn't have a PS3. And I remember a lot of them were like excited at first, but then they found out it was a PS3 exclusive. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a PlayStation IP. Twisted Metal's been around for a long time. And, even my friends that got it on PS3, they were only getting it for the multiplayer. They only bought it to play with friends. Ooh. And because you guys know, Winners and Drew, who played it when it first came out, the servers were so trash. They were so bad. It sometimes could take up to 30 minutes to find a match. And this is, by the way, it wasn't dead. There was people looking for matches. It just, the matchmaking was so terrible That like you'd spend 30 minutes waiting there for a match, you'd get in, and you'd be in there for 30 seconds and the game would crash because the host would leave or disconnect or whatever, and it didn't have any way of reconnecting hosts. It would just kill the lobby. So a lot of people just got discouraged immediately. They didn't have the patience, like we would because we're fans of the series. So we liked the single player and wanted to, keep the multiplayer alive so we would live through the pain, basically. Where 90% of casuals would just give up within like an hour.
So if the host quit, the game just died. Like they didn't do server migration.
Yeah.
It was.
That's crazy because that's like
we did that
at
with
that time. Like that's archaic at that time because that's like World at War.
Yeah, literally.
That was the last Call of Duty game that stopped doing it in 2008. Yeah, that was when it stopped.
We did that in Twisted Metal Black Online. Like if the host left, then the next person in line became the host.
On
we
PS2.
had that server migration.
On
PS2, yes.
That is just developer incompetence. Is honestly what.
Well, I think a lot of it was that, and just Sony not giving any type of like support once the game launched. They just said, well, it's the end of PS3 cycle. We only care about PS4 now, so later,
Yeah, that could be true. They probably didn't give a budget for that, but like the host migration would have been done on Eat Sleep Play side.
Yeah, I don't know
like we did with Black Online.
Mm-hmm.
So Nick and I were talking about this earlier today, how the races that appeared in Twisted Metal 2012, how they were there because the network programmer they felt was so talented and so indispensable that they let him put the races in just to keep him on the staff. Or just to keep him
wasn't
happy,
talented.
at least.
Oh god, and he sucks ass.
The result was what we got with the lobby is like so he fucked your game twice with the races and with the online mode.
Why did you leave him there?
He clearly wasn't talented.
Right. That was actually going to be the one thing. That was going to be the one thing I was going to bring up, like things you'd want to see in the next game. I was going to say no races. Like,
yes, no more racing in Twisted Metal, please.
They weren't as bad as people put them out to be, but they were not fun at the same time.
They're out of place.
Yeah. They're out of place. Yeah, this is not kart combat. It feels like a kart game, like Mario Kart or something like that, where I'm moving along a linear track and I fire at the cars ahead of me.
Yep.
Well, like not even a good kart racing game. The cars are not built like karts.
No.
Yeah, no, they're not. Especially that last race. That last race.
The last one was
inexcusable.
It wasn't fun.
It just pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's because the physics just don't make sense for it, and same with like how the cars move don't make sense for like a racing game.
Yeah, I mean, I get why they did it. They could make one very easily with existing mechanics without much work. Though building a whole track designed specifically for racing is a lot of work. So that's interesting that always kind of creeps into auto combat games. At least the last two revs.
Yeah. Like, we need
to have racing. Playing a car too much.
You thought you were playing Twisted Metal, but you're actually playing Gran Turismo.
Yeah, like, literally. Fuck, same with like the other thing too. I don't want to see in a new game is stop turning Sweet Tooth into a fucking transformer. I don't understand why does he need to be that. Like,
I thought the sweet part was stupid and Twisted Metal. I didn't get the point of it.
I didn't either.
Plus, the flying controls are fucking atrocious. So
they are. They're like you have to hold square to move forward. Like when you're running on the ground as a mech. How does that make sense? Why not just switch the control scheme really when he's in the bot form? Like it's not that hard.
Like imagine playing Call of Duty, but you drive your guy like a car. That's how Sweet Bot feels. It's bonkers.
Back up. Yeah, it's fucking weird. I don't get it. I didn't use it. I just didn't really ever.
Yeah,
use
same.
It,
I refuse to turn into a bot when I play as him because it doesn't. I don't know. Like, I got a lot of flack in my tier list video because people were like, "Oh, I love Sweet Tooth. He's the best guy in the game because of the mech, and I love being him. I can fly around and get away from people." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, if you master the controls, like that's good. Good for you." But they're so atrocious that it turns me off as a player wanting to play as him, and it also just feels so out of place. Like at least like even in Black he felt out of place transforming, but it was done in a way that still for some reason fit the tone of the game. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, it took place in his head, so
I guess like of course he'd have the most badass car, but at least he didn't fly,
even in Black, like it was gimmicky, but his wheels were on the ground, so it still handled like a car. You didn't get that kind of like critical depth feel where suddenly someone's airborne and you don't see them anymore, or they jump over you. Like, it's like, where the hell did he go? Oh, he's flying off into outer space. Cool. That's what cars do.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was a continuation of a gimmick from Black. Like someone had an idea of like, wouldn't it be cool if Sweet Tooth transformed into a giant Sweet Tooth, and then whoever took over on the next iteration was just like, oh, he partially transformed. Let's go all the way. Let's go all the way and make him Optimus Sweet Tooth.
Yeah, just way too far, and not even that. Not only that, but just no more flying vehicles. Just Talon doesn't need to be a thing. We don't need Warhawk to come back. Like, just keep the shit. Just keep the wheels on the ground.
Just no more Iron Maiden.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah,
Please.
No hoverpod shit. Fuck
no, no jetpack mech suits.
So I think game types, like what potential game types would a new game should like, or what should the new game have?
I would love to see a lot more team-based game modes.
Yeah,
yes, I think so. Koth would be a great one, I think.
I want to see all the stuff that we actually. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, King of the Hill is perfect. Koth would be a great map.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That would be perfect.
I liked in Twist Metal Black Online when we played it a few weeks ago with the community. The game mode that was the marked man, the hunted.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a lot of fun.
Manhunt.
Manhunt. That was a good one.
Yep. Pretty sure it's like Juggernaut from Halo.
I want to. Like, my wish list is everything we actually ended up cutting from Twisted Metal Black Online, because it's not 1v1 where you're just getting schooled. You can kind of rely a little bit on other team members if you're not that great.
Yeah.
And then we also gave them sub goals like, okay, you're not really great at going in for the kill, but you can pepper, the other team with damage and rack up a score that way if you want to, and still possibly win the match. But
like assists and stuff like that.
Yeah, assists.
Helps with kill stealing.
It does. Yeah, we had a mode in Twisted Metal Black Online that was all damage mode and not kills for the win. So you could set like 50,000 damage. So if someone's kill stealing you, you're still going to win if you're doing the most damage.
Yeah.
So that was actually in response to kill stealing. But yeah, like team versus teams versus AI teams is something we wanted to do. And also teams versus boss. So, you would have two teams trying to kill a boss before the other team does, but you could also try to kill each other to take you out so that you can't do damage to the boss, and then, help that way.
Cool. Did they
PvE
in 2012, Drew, did they have a capture the flag?
They had what's called nuke mode in 2012. So
yeah, fuck nuke. No, don't bring that back.
No, I loved it. I wanted to try it so bad.
You liked it? Oh, I hated that game.
I loved the concept. Yeah, you have the two nuke launchers. That's pretty much your home base, and then you'd have to find the faction leader, the flag, drag their fucking lifeless body back to the nuke launcher, sacrifice it, and then use the nuke to like hit this giant statue.
But again, it's
either end of the map.
Like cool. I like the idea of bringing the lifeless body to the other side and sacrificing them. That should be the point, though. Like, now you have to pilot a fucking missile and dodge bullets because people could shoot it out of the sky and hit their mech and do damage on it. It was just too much. It got frustrating.
I think if it was once the first one to score wins, I would like that, because I feel like all those steps would take a long time. Like if it scores like 5, fucking forget about it. It's gonna take like an hour to finish the game. Yeah. But if it's like the first one to get one missile to the statue, I think that's a fun game.
Is that how it was? Or was it multiple hits? I think it was
3. I want to say it was 3.
Yeah, that's the problem. I agree. If it was one hit, I think that's fine. But you had to do that fucking 3 times. And I remember in one game, I got the sacrifice twice in a row, just me, because everybody else is going for kills. I'm going for the objective. I brought the sacrifice back to the thing, got the missile going. Twice in a row, it got shot out of the sky before I could even touch the person. And you had to do that 3 times. You had to hit him. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why would I be frustrated like this?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. If it was 1 time, perfect game mode. 3 times, absolute trash. Like, throw it in the garbage.
Yeah. And then just a regular capture the flag would be cool. Or like,
it's not Twisted Metal enough, man. You got to sacrifice a human being.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, keep that aspect of it, but call it capture the flag. And I'll capture the leader or something. Because then you could just keep doing that. I think that'd be fun.
Or like VIP, where you have to kill like there's one car in each team that you have to kill to score points, and they're like more heavily armored.
They have to protect their friend or whatever. They have to protect who's the VIP.
I think
a lot of fun.
Call of Duty has that game mode right now, like currently.
They do. Same with Splitgate. I think they had that game mode from them.
Yeah, they have similar game modes like that.
VIP.
Like really, if you think about it, any first-person shooter online game mode could work in Twisted Metal.
Absolutely, yeah,
almost. Except for like search and destroy or something.
Yeah, like
imagine search. I would do it. I would play it if they could do search and destroy. You have one life. It's 5v5. Like if you die
in the center of the map, you go to the.
Right. I would fucking play that. That'd be funny.
I mean, Twisted Metal is really just a shooter, just at a much faster pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the heart of it, like, yeah, you're right. Any mode could work for it. I mean, you could even have like protect the convoy, and each team has a convoy that's slowly driving to the other team's base with bombs on it, and you got to prevent them from destroying before it gets there.
Like Overwatch has a game like
that.
Yeah,
Overwatch. Right? Yeah, one team is attacking, one team's defending. Yeah,
that would be cool. I mean, I'm serious. Like if they add those type of very team-based game modes in the multiplayer, it would easily keep its life. Like it would
definitely.
Way more players would stay around if they just stuck to, we're going to just balance TDM and deathmatch modes and free-for-all, like those will be fun, and I hope they are still there, of course. But they get old very fast. Like any game mode that, especially if there's nothing to grind for. I think Kong, you talked about this either in your stream last night. It was at some point you were talking about like 2012 had a lot of issues with single player being boring because there's nothing to grind for. There's nothing to keep you going back and play it again. And same with multiplayer. I don't remember them ever having any reason to keep going in and out except for just getting a better score, because there was nothing to really grind for. There was no special skin you could unlock, like for doing certain, like getting certain headshots or whatever. Obviously headshots wouldn't make sense, but certain things like you could do, like what am I trying to think of the name for that they use like in Call of Duty, like different.
Class?
No, they're different like
camos.
Well, camos was what you unlock, but you have to do these things to unlock them. I'm trying to think of what the word of those things are.
What do you mean? They just had they would have challenges. They'd have
just challenges. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm thinking of. Like just little challenges they could have and make them change like daily challenges and weekly challenges and stuff. Just anything that can entice the player to come back, turn the game on, and play it some more. I think that
they gotta spend $20 an hour on gas and stuff like that. That would be
cool. $20 an hour to play your game. Jesus Christ. They could try it, man. I probably would be a sucker and do it, but I don't know. That'd be horrible.
I think what I've come down to at this point is I just want Twisted Metal to be Overwatch, but in cars. Just give me that and I'm good.
It's Overwatch in cars.
That was my original thought. Because I mean, it would make the characters feel more unique.
It would.
The cars would definitely feel more special because they'd have a role.
Right. Twisted Metal 2012 tried to do that. There's a lot of characters in that game that they have an alternate special or some ability that only makes sense if it's like a team-based game. Like Junkyard Dog's alternate special is to throw a taxi cab that doesn't explode and do damage. It explodes and heals. Which, if you're playing single player, why would you ever want to heal your opponents?
Yeah.
But if you're playing a team-based game, hey, you're the medic now. You're the healer. Right. You're the Mercy swooping in to help out your homies.
Yep.
Like they try. They really did try. It just never came to fruition.
If they have enough time to do it, they could also, in a way, have two separate versions of the characters. So, and what I mean by that is they could have, for single player, it's just like classic Twisted Metal. Like all the characters are separated in their own. They're not like in different groups. They're their own character, their own special weapons, everything. But then if you go into multiplayer, they have the same characters, but now they're integrated into these categories and have different abilities for multiplayer specifically. They could do that too.
Yeah, that's
like over-designed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the development for that would be kind of
it would be hell. You need like two separate developed. You would need a team that would only do multiplayer, and you need a team that would only do single player at that point.
Yeah, you would.
Because there'd be no way they'd overlap. Like, it'd be impossible.
I mean, they could do a lighter version of that where you could customize maybe the stats on your car. You're given, 100 points, and put into armor, speed, turning, handling, things like that, and you can spread them around as much as you want, but they're limited based on the car. So you're never going to have a super sluggish Spectre, but you could have a slightly faster Sweet Tooth. And they can even push that further and just like, can you customize your special? Maybe I want it to go faster, but it doesn't live as long in the environment, or it seeks more, but it does less damage. So players can kind of tune their car to whatever is needed for like a multiplayer team if they wanted to. And something like that would actually be pretty easy.
I feel like Gunsmith from Call of Duty. You can just mix and match like things that you can't change the platform of the gun, but you can make the armor lighter so your car moves faster, but you take more damage or whatever. Like it's like slight tweaks to your play style. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting.
Or bring back salvage from the 8-second events.
Salvage.
Or bring back Create a Car.
Yeah.
Have that work.
Create a Car would be awesome. That would be cool.
I like the Create a Car. The cars didn't feel like iconic cars in Twisted Metal, which is completely understandable given the fact you're making something completely new.
Yeah.
So maybe like a restricted Create a Car based on each car would be pretty fun.
What they could do is have it like where it's set up where you start out with a body, like a cage of your vehicle, a skeleton, if you will, of the vehicle. You can choose the tires, you could choose the body shape, the size, you could choose the paint job, and then from that point on, you could choose any of the special weapons from any character in the game to have as your special weapon. Like just, let's say you want it to be like Mr. Grimm. So you choose the skeleton body of a motorcycle. And then you can switch up like between 10 different versions of bodies and different wheels. And then you could choose, but you don't want Mr. Grimm special. You want like the ghost missile from Spectre. So you put that on the car. And then you can change up. I think the machine gun should be the same. I don't think they should do 2012 where they have different types of machine guns. Because I never use the other ones anyway. They all kind of suck. So, I mean, they all should have just a typical regular machine gun we're used to. But it just should be like, the special weapon shouldn't be like TM4 had like 4 special weapons that were unique to the Create a Car. I don't think they need to do that. Terrible. I think just let them use any special weapon from the game and put that on your Create a Car. And then you can just name it whatever you want. And then you could do a custom paint job like you could in 2012. I think that would, right there would be like a huge, like, that would keep me coming back and making new cars all the time.
I did like the paint job idea because I did make the pizza car in 2012, and that was the most fun I had in the game.
Hell yeah!
You put it on Crimson Fury. You do the I think it's a cheetah. I think it's cheetah, and then you make you make behind it yellow, and then you make the prints red, and it looks like pepperonis. And that's it.
There was people that did some crazy stuff on 2012 with the paint editor. I remember back in the day, people would upload like their. I couldn't remember. Could you upload like your own version, like download it and add it to the game? I couldn't remember if you could do that.
Yeah, you would. My understanding was you would go to the website twistedmetal.com or whatever. Yeah. And you would download like the UV texture map or whatever for the car, and you'd put that in Photoshop, and you would Photoshop like you still like a UV texture map or whatever. Like it's like you flatten the model, and then you just like kind of draw on that flat model.
Yeah.
And then you upload that back to the website, and that was your new texture for the car.
Yeah. Oh God, we played around with that in various games. How many Dong cars have been in that match?
Yeah, probably that's the problem with that stuff. Like people would just put like racist stuff on it or whatever.
Oh
so
they shut that down pretty quick.
Yeah,
that's one reason why we don't do that, because we would always do that type of stuff because it's like free textures and lots of creative expressivism. But it always goes awry. It goes awry horribly every single time.
Put like 18 plus stuff, racist stuff, and whatever else on there, and it's like just ruins it, unfortunately.
We'd always
People do get pretty creative with like Forza and Gran Turismo with like those livery editors that you have, like a bunch of like basic shapes, and you can assemble them in creative ways. Like, is that the workaround?
That's the workaround. Is you give them a preset.
Well, it is, but they did that like in Black Ops, and people still figured out how to make like racist stuff.
Right.
So
bad stuff in that.
Yeah,
but you're right. That was our workaround, is to give them pre-made shapes we thought was very safe, but people would overlap them in creative ways. Like they're always going to figure out a way to be offensive. That's just the way it is.
There's no mountain high enough, no valley low enough. We'll find a way to be awful.
Just as long as they have a way to report the player, like if people can report them for like maybe there's a section in the report section that says like an offensive profile picture or offensive offensive
it should
library.
Just go through a check, I think. Like it should have to be like checked beforehand, and like I'm sure we have the technology now to.
Like an AI like scanner almost. Like
it's like okay, it texts these pieces together. Like that's not something good, and it just
that's a dick.
That's a dick. Get it out.
Kong hit it right on the nose, because before we had to actually hire people to go in and look at all the images and approve them. And now that we have AI, we can at least probably catch 80% of that stuff now. So it's much safer with AI.
Yeah, I think it could be possible. It'd be cool. So do you guys
think the number one thing people talk about with wish lists is like, I want to be able to personalize and customize my car.
Right.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And like, do you guys think that a Twisted Metal game could still be successful in 2023 if it were to come out like this year?
Yep, I think it would be, because I think we're in a drought right now. We just came off of like I think mostly every multiplayer game that's released in the past like 5 years has mainly been battle royale games and FPS games.
Yeah,
so I think it would give people something new. That's not the same thing, because I think people are kind of tired of FPS games now. Because when 2012 released, like FPS games are still being innovated on. People were still more interested in like Call of Duty and stuff because they weren't played out yet.
Right.
Now it's kind of been like these games have been played out, and I think that Twisted Metal would probably turn heads. I think.
Yeah.
What was the last big innovation in multiplayer games? Was it battle royale? Just more players, bigger map, shrinking environment.
Probably the stuff that Fortnite's done.
Yeah,
so they've done
battle
some
pass
2017. That was 6 years ago.
Shit.
Yeah,
like they've done some nutty shit in that game. Like the creativity and some of the maps they've created is just crazy.
I would probably argue the most popular game modes now, if you take out battle royale, are either what do you call Valorant and CS:GO? It looks like tactical shooters.
Those are tac shooters, yeah.
So like tac shooters are really popular right now, and I think like Overwatch, like those team based. I don't know what you call that genre either. Just like team
based shooter, yeah.
Yeah,
like team shooters.
I think those two are like the most popular right now in terms of like how many players are online at any time playing them. So obviously, I don't think Twisted Metal could be a tac shooter. Unless they somehow figure it out,
with, like Call of Duty or something. I could fit in with like a generalized audience. I think
of just. I think Halo was a good approximation, right?
Yeah.
Like, you say Halo?
What do you mean?
Halo, yeah, because like the time to kill being higher in Halo, like there's a bit more strategy with every engagement. Where Call of Duty, like as soon as you see someone, you're dead.
Yeah. It's an entirely reaction.
I guess Overwatch would be the best example.
I was gonna say Overwatch is a way bigger health pool. So it's like
you need to hit heads in that
there's
game.
A lot of cat and mouse in Overwatch as well, which is like Twisted Metal, where you find an enemy, you chase them down, you go after them.
Kind of Rochambeau in Overwatch too. Like you know, if like I will approach someone differently depending on who they are.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not gonna rush up on Reaper.
Right.
You know, Reaper's the shotgun guy, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Like the ghost guy. Yeah. It's like I want to approach him differently than I do like Winston. You know, I think Twisted Metal is kind of like that.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, like obviously everybody can fight anybody. I mean, you can go in as Grim and you can kill a Darkseid pretty easily, as long as you're smart and know how to use that character effectively. But I do feel if they were to change up the core gameplay to make it more skill gapped, if that's the right word, to make it more interesting to the two new players in the new generation, I think the only way they could go is like the Overwatch route of making it separated via classes and via like their specific abilities to make them really unique from each other.
Yeah, and part of the popularity of that too is that if you're not good as a shooter, you can move to be a healer or do some other role that you're better at, as opposed to no, you have to be really good at being a shooter, like you would have to be in, you know, a straight up Twisted Metal. You have no other options other than to get good.
Yeah. The only thing is I just don't know how that would work in a single player environment. Because right now Overwatch it doesn't have their single player version yet, right? Overwatch.
They've only had events that were PvE. I don't think they've ever had like a true single player experience.
Yeah, right.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, it could be possible, but I don't know if they would go that route of going full on team shooter like Overwatch, unless it's a multiplayer only game. If that is true.
Well, I mean, I think the characters are. I think they would just be fine to play in a single player environment, though.
Like even like a healer though, like a Mercy. I don't know.
Like, I don't think they would do that stuff for car combat. I think that would be too much of a stretch to do.
Oh, okay.
I think everybody should. I really think it should be similar to like Call of Duty in a sense.
I want to be a health truck. I just drive around. I don't do any damage. I just drive in a circle and people like drive off my back.
I mean, you could be Juggernaut and just have people go inside you and heal up. You could just be that guy.
Climb in my belly. Yeah.
Get in me.
I mean, you could definitely adjust like the maps for single player to accommodate different classes. You know, maybe you have areas that are damage zones that you need to heal up from that other classes have to avoid.
Yeah.
Or you're given a side objective like you must escort this truck, but you're never going to be just a healer in these type of games. You're still going to have weaponry. It's just not going to be as powerful as like the damage dealer.
Right.
Yeah, the primary focus should always be shooting the other cars, I think, regardless of what class you would play, for instance. Like that would always be your primary goal. You just have the ability to help your teammates.
Yeah, you're gonna sacrifice 20% off of your top health or your top special damage to actually heal instead.
Right.
Yes.
Well, all right. Looking at the time here, I think we're probably pretty good on the topic as for today. Is there anything last comments you'd like to make before we end it out?
Once again, hire Nick with the game and the show. Both of them.
For the game and the show.
Game and the show.
Hire Nick for the game and the show. Twist Metal 2 is overrated.
And Nuke Deathmatch.
Yeah, Nuke
Team Deathmatch.
TM3's best game of the series.
You can create a direct, Nick, and I'll do the level design and combat design.
Hell yeah, I'm down. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching and for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode of the Twisted Cast. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, everyone.